It's the last week of school and have an important science test on Friday. I know I have to study, but I have taekwondo training for a tournament on the same day. I can decide whether to go train, but then I could fail my science test, or I can go study, but then I would not be prepared for the tournament. This example is a trade-off. Trade-offs are not just important in training or studying, but can play a much bigger role in how the world functions. The example I gave is similar to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which says we can't know the particle's position and momentum at the same time, so we have to choose either one. The uncertainty principle is part of quantum mechanics, a branch of physics that focuses the quantum realm. The quantum realm consists of subatomic particles like protons, neutrons, and electrons, which are the basic building blocks of atoms, which behave like a particle and a wave at the same time. Here, let's display a wave function. A wave function is a particle in waveform before measurement or observation. For our purposes, we have to turn it into a probability wave. We first have to square the height of the wave. After squaring the wave function, we're left with a probability wave. The probability wave can show the odds of finding a particle on the wave. The high points of the waves can show us the particle is most likely to appear there, rather than the lowest point of the waves. To find the momentum, you have to measure the wavelengths of two neighboring peaks or two neighboring valleys. And for the position, you measure the height of the wave. To really understand why there's uncertainty in this principle, we have to explain it in two examples. Here, let's imagine a photon wave with only one wavelength, like a sine wave. The wavelength tells us the exact momentum of the sine wave because sine waves only have one specific wavelength. But the problem is sine waves are endless. And because of that issue, the location of the particle could be anywhere, which makes knowing the position impossible. Now let's do the polar opposite. Let's have a photon wave with a more precise position then. But now you have no idea of the momentum because it's made by many sine waves combined or interfered. The many sine waves combined or interfered produce what's known as a wave packet. Sine waves in the wave packet have different speeds, and that could lead to multiple wavelengths because they all exist at the exact same time. Overall, trying to find the precise position means you have to keep adding waves. The more waves you add, the more types of speed there will be. Or if you're trying to get a precise momentum, you have to make the wave much more bigger, and the more bigger it becomes, more spaces the particle is able to appear in. Okay, let's wrap things up. The principle is just a fundamental limit on how precisely we can measure a particle's position and momentum. Just think of it as a law that limits our knowledge about quantum objects. And you might be asking, why doesn't it affect objects in everyday life? The uncertainty principle has such a small limit that it will only affect subatomic particles due to their size. And if we increase the size all the way up to a baseball, the principle is still there, but doesn't have any noticeable effect on it. The uncertainty in the position or momentum of a large object doesn't really make a noticeable difference to the measurements. It's really fascinating to know that there's so many topics surrounding just this one principle, such as waves, probability, the quantum realm, wave packets, and many more topics. And it's really odd to know that we only have such a limited amount of information and how there's a trade-off between position and momentum. That's solely how the quantum world functions, and we merely have to go with the flow.